I came across this statement on social media. Leading isn't controlling. Some men get that wrong, so they try to control. Now, many people think they have a handle on what that means. Personally, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to introduce you to some superior thinking skills. My name is Daniel Danovi. I'm a peak performance coach, a workshop and seminar leader, and over the last 30 years, I've worked with over 10,000 people, specializing in self-identity and mind mastery training. Now, what follows is a sample of one of the mental frameworks that I utilize in my signature coaching program, The Aligned Self. Now, I just briefly want to talk about the program. It's in recreating yourself from the inside out. Most people have a default concept of who they are. Default meaning they've just inherited it or they've accepted it from the validation from the outside world, pieced together year by year, belief by belief. And in the program, you're allowed to recreate yourself from the inside out. And it begins with the question, and I'll ask you, who are you? 99 times out of 100, most people draw a blank. How do I begin to answer that question of all the different variables, all the different beliefs and perceptions and habits that I have? How do I begin to define who I am? Well, put basically, we can say that who you are is the expression of your habitual thinking patterns. You see, you have a collection of default patterns in which you work with the world, you deal with the world in, you perceive the world in a particular way. And so when you look at your self-identity, the sum total of your thinking is who you are. Your beliefs, your perceptions, your values, how you align your behavior. Change your thoughts, you change your life. Now, in the program, the way we look at it, we don't ask, who are you? Only in the beginning. But more importantly, who do you want to be? You see, in the program, I guide you to become the person you are meant to be. Now, by participating in the Aligned Self program, you can become 10 times more effective in life, in business, unstoppably confident, self-expressed, 100% being expressed who you are from your heart, self-aware and keenly perceptive. And you're going to see an example of this perceptive process, or as a result of this little training, you can become 100% authentic, coming from your heart and from an inner authority. Regardless of what people say from the outside, you can trust yourself because you've created yourself. And what's most profound is that you can arrive at a sense of being whole and complete, not lacking anything. And we achieve this through accurate and organized thinking. So what follows is a sample of a mental framework that we used. And again, here's the statement, leading isn't controlling. Some men get that wrong, so they try and control. Now, many of you have already assumed you know what this means. You have an idea of what this means. But you know what happens when you assume. We end up making an ass of you and me because 9 times out of 10, all we have is our perception, our perspective, and we may not be considering what the other person really means. Leading isn't controlling. Some men get that wrong, so they try and control. This is expressed in language. Now, when we look at language, linguistics is a symbolic representation of experience. But we have to come to terms with the fact that language is not the experience. It's a representation of the experience. So anytime someone utters something in a sentence, in a statement, and sometimes in a question, it presents the surface structure of the communication. And as a result, certain aspects of that experience have been deleted, generalized, and distorted. Think of it this way. From the context of an iceberg, the surface structure is the little piece of the iceberg that pokes its head out of the water. What we don't see or are not present to is the deep structure of the communication underneath. So when we look at the statement, leading isn't controlling, some men get that wrong. So they try to control. There's aspects that have been deleted. There's ideas that have been generalized and distorted. So what we're going to look at is the deep structure. We're going to challenge the communication to reclaim the missing, distorted, and lost specifics of the communication. Again, here we are. Leading isn't controlling. So let's pick this apart. So leading isn't controlling according to who? First off, we're missing a referenced source of expertise. Leading isn't controlling. How do we know? How do we know it isn't controlling? What is the criteria for leading? And who sets the criteria? Some men. How many men? Are we talking as few as 3 or significantly more? How many specifically? What percentage of all men are we talking about? What are their ages? Is it only old men? Young men? Does this apply across generations, or is it specific to a certain culture, country, or race? Then what context are we talking about? What are the specific situations that leading is presenting itself? Is it family dynamics, business, sports, or politics? When we consider the word try, it implies that they are not successful in controlling. So when they try to control, what does it look like? What does it sound like, feel like? If they get it wrong, is there a negative impact? And how specifically? What is the impact? So you see, there's a lot of missing information here. And so this framework that I'm presenting here, I'm not going into detail. I'm just giving you an example of it. You can reclaim the lost information. So if you were one of the people, then you first looked at the statement, you thought you had an idea or a representation in your mind of what was being said, what was being communicated. Through our challenging questions, we've identified there's a lot of missing pieces. There's a lot of information that's been deleted. There's a lot of information that's been generalized and distorted. Now let's look at something that might hit a little closer to home. I'm not enough. Now, a lot of people have some form of this belief. I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable enough, not worthy enough, not deserving enough. In some form or fashion, a lot of people have this statement, this belief in their psyche. So let's use this framework to challenge that. Not enough what? What specifically are you lacking? Not enough according to who? Is this ongoing across context, across situations, or is specific to certain circumstances or a time in your past? If you're not good enough, is it a matter of training? Can you gain more skills, more expertise? You see, once we begin challenging the statement linguistically, it no longer has the same power. In fact, there's a lot of doubt, there's a lot of ambiguity about that statement because all the specifics have been deleted. So when we challenge it, we're actually freed up. It's possible that this statement, this belief, can never live in you again. So if it comes up, you can ask, not enough what? What specifically am I lacking? Is it something that I can train myself to do, something I can become and grow into? So let's look at another belief, another statement that a lot of people have in their head. I'm afraid. Sometimes clients come to me with this generalized feeling of fear. Maybe they have goals and intentions, but they're stuck. They can't seem to move forward. I'm afraid to take the next step. And I ask, afraid of what? What specifically? If what you fear comes to pass, what would that mean about you? You see, sometimes when someone is afraid of something coming true or being validated, they're actually afraid of that validation, a belief, an inner belief that they have that they're not willing to admit. So they don't want to prove it out in the marketplace. So that begs a deeper question. If that were to be true, would it be absolutely true? True according to who? Where do you get that information from? What's the criteria? If what you fear came to pass, how would you handle it? What would be your response? What would be the impact on your life? Would it be short-lived? Long-lasting? Would it be something that you could easily recover from? What would your options be? Could you begin again? Would you use the results as feedback to begin again more intelligently? When we begin picking apart this statement, I'm afraid, I feel fear, and we dive deep, it begs a deeper question. We're going for the deep structure. What is really going on? When we can identify it, then it's something we can handle. But when it's just this generalized feeling of fear, we can't get a handle on it. So what I've just presented is a linguistics model that I utilize in my coaching program, The Aligned Self. In fact, I utilize it in every area of coaching in my life. So what are the uses that you can utilize it for? You can use it in your relationships, business and personal. Negotiation. See, all our relationships are a matter of negotiation. Negotiating agreements. You can clarify agreements, find out what the other person means, get clarity on what you want. I daily utilize it in my coaching and leadership and performance, clarifying goals, intentions, outcomes, my own personal goals, and intentions. I can get really clear and delineate the language to make things possible. Over the years, in knowing and utilizing this linguistics model, I've been able to make powerful decisions in my relationships, financial decisions, career decisions, and business. It's impacted every area of my life. I have an increased sense of self-awareness because it brings the unconscious, that deep structure, into conscious awareness to where you can choose it or release it, utilize it, or let it go. You can challenge limiting beliefs. So anywhere you have conversations with yourself or other people, it is an invaluable tool. It will give you greater clarity and certainty. Like I said earlier, a greater self-awareness, a greater conscious awareness of reality. You'll have an increased level of confidence because you have surety in your communication. It will save you time, money, and effort by being more precise. People waste so much time through misunderstanding. It will give you a greater level of satisfaction, happiness, and overall joy in your life because you won't be having these awkward, debilitating conversations with yourself. You'll have better relationships, more intimate, connected relationships because you'll be able to speak to people in their model of the world. You will understand and you will be understood. It has many more benefits, many more ramifications to your life than can be stated here. But if I piqued your interest, if you want to find out more, I actually have a course on this that is independent from my coaching program, and you can learn more about it there at yesdaniel.com/courses. And if you can't remember the courses part, just go to yesdaniel.com and there's a link to access my courses. And before I let you go, I have one final thought. This is very easy to learn. And once you learn it, you have it forever.